Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome everyone. Before we begin, out of respect, may I please remind everyone to silence your cell phones for the duration of the service. Our services are under the direction of John Horton. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Dan, and welcome. I know that Chuck's family is grateful for your presence here. Just the fact that you've come here today to celebrate Chuck's life means a great deal. It means that Chuck or one of his family members made a difference in your life. I don't know if you know this, but about 7,000 people will die today in the United States. But you're not attending their funeral. You're attending Chuck's precisely because he made a difference. In some special way, he touched you. You know, that's a great quality to have. We have funerals in this very chapel where not one single person has shown up. And I don't think it means the person was uncaring or perhaps a recluse. Maybe it just means, I don't know, maybe his friends or family live far away. But in any event, they didn't take the time to honor that person. Well, you're here. You care enough to take time out of your busy schedule to honor Chuck and the life he lived. He's watching, and he's thanking you. It's something to think about. Our scripture reading today comes from the Gospel of John. It says, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God and believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have not told you that I would go to prepare a place for you? And when I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also, and you know the way and where I am going." Thomas said to him, "Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way?" Jesus said to him, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me." The Gospel of John. We have some pictures of Chuck that the mortuary's made into a wonderful memorial video, and we'd like to show that to you now.
Bullet.
You never knew it was in the ball.
He had the best mullet ever.
Aw, the blue hair. Awesome.
Well, you folks found some great old pictures. I can't even find pictures I had at Christmas, and those are some nice ones. The Lord's Prayer, also known as our Father prayer, is very likely the most well-known prayer in the Christian world. The Lord's Prayer in the Bible can be found in two books, Luke and Matthew, Both books reveal Jesus' instructions as one of his disciples were asked to teach them to pray. It's one of our most comforting prayers at a service like this, and I'd like you to repeat it with me now. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. In just a few minutes, we're going to have what I like to call an open mic or a sharing session. It's going to be your chance to come forward if you wish and share a story or a memory that you might have of this wonderful gentleman. It gives us a chance to see him through your eyes, so I'd like you to be thinking of something that you'd like to say, and we'll do that in just a few minutes. Right now, I want to speak to Chuck's family and his close friends for just a moment, and I want to reassure you that Chuck is in a safe and secure place. He's in a beautiful and a restful place, and I could quote you many Bible verses and make all of this true, but this isn't the type of service for that, so I'll just ask you today to have faith and trust in what you believe, to know that Chuck loved you and that he's watching you. You know, you just wouldn't be human if you didn't grieve at the loss of your loved one. When we process our grief, it's not the load that breaks us down so much, it's the way we carry it deep down inside of us. Don't let anybody tell you that it's easy. During your time of grief, have the courage to know that you'll push through it day by day. You know, courage doesn't always come out roaring like a lion, does it? Sometimes it's just that little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow. We say the hour of someone's passing can't be forecast, but when we say that, we imagine the hour as placed in an obscure and distant future. You know, it never occurs to us that it has any connection with the day already begun, or that death could arrive this very afternoon. This afternoon, which is so certain and which has every event planned in advance. I bet if I asked you, what are you going to be doing the rest of the weekend? You got plans for dinner tonight? You could probably tell me. Remember those 7,000 people we talked about at the beginning of the service? Well, they won't be able to make that choice. I know that Chuck was what you might call your forever person. Our forever people are by definition the people that we're not supposed to say goodbye to. They're our forever husband or dad, brother, son, uncle, or friend. They're our partners in crime. They're the people who feel like home in a way that even we don't understand. They're the people we picture as always being there, 10, 20, 30 years from now. The whole point is they're not supposed to go anywhere. Here's the funny thing about life, though, it works in unfortunate ways. The people who could have been there forever are sometimes the very ones that we have to let go, often for reasons that are entirely out of our control. And so, what do we do when we find ourselves with this uncomfortable reality? How do we say goodbye to the person that you thought would be at your side for so much longer? How do you let someone like Chuck go? Well, you start by not downplaying their significance. You start by accepting that they mattered in a way that nobody before them ever did. I know as family and friends, you love Chuck in your own special way, but love isn't enough right now. So you have to be thankful. Thankful that he was in your life as family. Thankful that he was in your life as a friend. Be thankful that you got to know him. Be thankful that you get to feel the way you do about Chuck in your lifetime. He really was that special guy, I'm told. And just think, you were in his life too. He loved you, or he counted you as a friend. If that's not something to be grateful for, I don't know what is. And so, as you let go of Chuck today, do so calmly and do so with gratitude. Do so with the understanding that we don't get to keep all the gifts we're given in this life. Some things are lent to us perhaps just to make us a better person. And sometimes we have to let that be enough. If you can be a big enough person to appreciate what you have when you have it, and to let go with gratitude when it's time to do so, you gain the respect of that one person that you'll never have to let go of, and that's yourself. Something to think about. Because of COVID restrictions, I know that many of Chuck's friends couldn't be here today, but some have sent some memorial messages, and we'd like to show a few of those right now.
So we wanted to send along our best to Chuck and his family. We were trying to think of things to say and hold it together over the course of a minute or two. And we wanted to focus on the positive. And every time I think of Chuck, I always think of walking into a room and him instantly making me smile, whether it was him just looking at me in a funny way or having a wise-ass comment. It didn't matter whether I was walking into a bar or into a hospital room in Arizona. He always just had a certain way about him that he could easily bring a smile to my face. He was a great friend. He was always the life of the party, loved by so many people, and just a very proud person with respect to his son, Dylan. And I think everybody in this room can say that Dylan is his legacy, and we're all going to act like animals for the rest of his life to make sure that Dylan has everything that he needs. So we love you, Chuck. We miss you.
I can't believe you're not picking up the phone, Charles. That's what I called him when I was mad at him. I'm gonna let that go. So, everyone needs to pick up their feet. It's an inside joke. Doggy dog knows. And make sure that Dylan's taken care of. And Jen, I'm so sorry. You know, you and Dylan are probably hurting pretty bad right now, and we're totally here for you. You want to come out to California? We're so here for you. Dylan, your dad loved you so much. He really did. And we all loved him so much. He was just a good guy. He was just fun. And he was present. And he was caring. And I'm gonna stop the leaking from my eyeballs right now. Why do you even put mascara on nowadays? I don't even know. Anyhow. Chuck, we love you. Dylan, Jen, and you're all welcome to come visit the Maycons. We 33 years of friendship.
Good. And I'll leave you with this. Chuck, if you can hear me, I know you'll appreciate what I'm about to say. The Giants suck and the Eagles are a better team.
You fought one of the toughest battles I ever seen anybody fight in 13 years. You can rest in peace knowing that you did your best. You're always there for me, and I'll never forget that. I always appreciated you for that. I hope they have Porsches with wings, because you deserve the ride, buddy. God bless you. Hope to see you on the other side. Love you, Tony.
Hi, friends, family, Facebook, the internet. We're here to say a few things about our friend Chuck. I suppose I should leave his favorite mask off. A couple things I'd like to say is, one, I always called him Chuckles. And that's because he always made me laugh. Whether he called me and I answered the phone, I said goodbye, it was always Chuckles, Chuckles. We always told each other we loved each other, as we do with everyone in this room, and more so with everyone watching. He really spoke of love all the time and shared it with us. You know, never regret growing older. It's a privilege denied to many. And I say that because I just turned 62 11 days ago. And I've known Chuck for 33 years. And I believe it's the first birthday that I didn't get to have dinner with him, that I really miss him. You know, Chuck was always slow to make enemies and fast to make friends. One of the things I learned from him as I became an organ donor, if Chuck wouldn't have been able to get that heart and kidney back in those days, then we wouldn't have had these extra time. And I thank God that he got a heart and a kidney. And we had 12 more years with him. And Dylan, I'm sorry you only had the 12 years with him. But don't be afraid to ask him for help, for guidance. Just look up at the sky, say a prayer, say a few words. And if there's anyone that can get a hall pass from God to come back and help, you know it would be Chuck. He'll be there. He's in our hearts. That man had too. You know, I wanted to make the perfect speech, and I've tried it 50 times. But no matter how often I talk about our friend, it's good every time. And I thank the Lord for the time I had with him. I thank him for everyone in this room. And you've all heard this before, but I'd like to share my favorite toast with them. We came into this world naked and bare. We go through life with troubles and cares. And when we die, we go, God knows where. But Chuck, if we're good people here, we'll be good people there. I miss you. Love you, buddy. Chuck. Chuck, you're
My name is Jeff Williams, but please call me Kirby. First off, you'll notice that I will be using is as opposed to was when I refer to our friend Chuck. He is with us and always will be. Chuck is one of my favorite friends, so guess what? We all have something in common. Chuck is our favorite for many reasons. Some reasons will be shared today by myself and others. Some reasons will be shared later tonight and in the days and years to come. Maybe some reasons shouldn't be shared. We'll see. The wonderful, beautiful, touching stories that we share today will keep Chuck alive in our hearts and minds forever. The occasions and situations we share as groups are epic. But some of the best stories that we have are those personal moments and occasions that we have individually with Chuck. So many of those moments have passed through our collective heads these past few weeks. So many. It's hard to come up with a story that stands over the others, but I will attempt to share my secret story about our friend. A story that became a way that I thought of him and how I thought he thought of me. A way that he impacted and shaped me, and a way that I will strive to enjoy and appreciate my friends. Chuck told me on several occasions, usually accompanied by the rising sun, that sometimes when we were talking, he felt like he was talking to a priest. Now, somehow a living room had morphed into a confessional. Wow, please know I'm not Catholic. Although I now remember that I did date Catholics pretty much exclusively in college. Something about a Billy Joel song that comes to mind. Anyway, while I might consider myself a believer, I most certainly could not be called devout. I have the best intentions, I just really don't practice enough. But I did embrace this father designation and realize that Chuck most generally appreciates my listening and consoling skills. Father Kirby, if I heard that somewhere before. But anyway, I think the real reason is that he knows that it will stay with us. It is our talk, our moment, our understanding. Those are his gifts to me. A cherished moment, an insightful discussion, the great one-liners, the wry smile, that mischievous twinkle in his eyes. His gift to me, which I am sharing today, are the gifts he gives to all of us. The wonderful abilities to be present and active and caring about each other and our lives together. So when you're sharing your Chuck stories and moments with others, you're indeed sharing these gifts. Love you, Chuck. Oh, and for those of you that may be a little timid about sharing a particular story, I know a guy.
It's sad that I couldn't do it in person. Seems like just yesterday I was the wet behind the ears punk that thought he knew everything as the assistant manager at Flamingo Indicator. I'll never forget the night that I met the legendary Chuck Besen, and at the time I had no idea the relationship that was about to begin. We would joke I was the younger brother he didn't want, and I would joke that he was the older brother I didn't need. I'd say at least half of that was a lie. Chuck was absolutely the big brother I needed. He vouched for me in the old school crew. He showed me how to take care of everybody from the dishwasher to the whale. I wouldn't be who or where I am today without the lessons I learned with Chuck. There's a day that goes by that I don't ever a Chuckism. How do I know you're not a cop? One more and somebody's got to go home. Many stories could be told about me and Chuck, but as he would say, the names would have to be changed to protect the guilty. We may not have hung out as much or talked as often anymore. He would know, though, when I was having a bad day, he would sense it, and he'd call me. He'd make me laugh, he'd put things in perspective. At the end, he'd tell me how proud he was of where I got. Just like a big brother. Heaven has gained a legend. Chuck was an amazing man and father, but we have a better friend. That's a big brother that Blake Pete could have asked for. Sorry, Raj. I know you're looking down over us, but the crown reserved in your hands. You'll be missed, but never forgotten. Rest in peace, brother. And Friday night, sure back somewhere. You're hungry. We got them all on all that. But we were hoping you guys were all talking to him.
To all of Chuck's friends, he always had his special way of greeting you and his special way of saying goodbye. For me, it was Dino! Every time. And see you later. I love you, brother. Every time I say goodbye, I know so many of Chuck's friends know exactly what I'm talking about. It's one of the great memories Chuck left so many of us. A memory that we get to keep forever. Being Chuck's friend was pretty easy. He never asked for much. He was a giver. One of the most important things I was ever given by Chuck was the right to be Dylan's honorary uncle. Chuck demanded one thing before you were given the right to be Dylan's uncle. I want your solemn promise, your word, that when I'm gone, I can't be there for my son. You'll be there for Dylan if he ever needs you. Dylan, I know I can speak for all of your uncles. Your dad made each and every one of us give our word and make that promise often. Dylan, if you ever find yourself in need, you know who your uncles are. You make the call, and the uncles will unite. We will be there for you. Chuck Besen, thank you for being such a great friend for so many years. See you later. I love you, brother.
Great stories there, huh? Chuck J. Besen, age 57, passed away at home peacefully on Wednesday, January 6th, 2021. Chuck was born July 25th, 1963 at Queens Hospital in Queens, New York, near his grandparents Paul and Claire. In 1972, His mother, Sylvia, her husband Art, and Chuck moved to Canelon, New Jersey. While growing up, some of his best friends were Adam Wolf, Danny Severese, Eric Westerhoff, and Ken Cross. He attended Canelon High School, where he played and excelled in both basketball and soccer for all 4 years. He became captain in basketball, co-captain in soccer, and senior high class president. He enjoyed learning Spanish from Senor Ruiz and social studies from Mr. O'Rourke. There he met his good friend Johnny Wickens. After graduating Canelon High, class of '81, he attended Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, before transferring to Florida State. While attending college in Florida during the '80s, he worked as a bartender in a few busy nightclubs where he met his way too many friends to even list. He moved to Las Vegas in 1987, where he quickly became a very well-known and highly respected bartender and manager in the Las Vegas food and beverage community. During that time, he met Roger and Timmy, who would later become his very good friends. Chuck was an avid Yankees, Giants, and Rangers fan and loved to travel to watch them play. Some of his favorite vacations were at the beautiful beaches of Southern California. He enjoyed traveling to New Orleans in the first week in May to enjoy Jazz Fest. He loved to get with friends and travel to see the Grateful Dead and major sporting events. Along with the long list of friends, he also had a four-legged friend by the name of Maggie, the White Westie. Chuck met Jennifer and got engaged before having their son Dylan on January 30th, 2008. In 2009, after recovering from a heart and kidney transplant, Chuck retired and tried to spend every waking moment with his beloved son Dylan. Some of Chuck's friends would describe him as someone who lived in the present, was energized by the presence of his friends and people, a man who used logic and common sense to make decisions, and someone who was always ready to jump into the next adventure. Chuck is survived by his loving son, Dylan. We have some more of Chuck's friends on video that would like to remember him. Let's watch the screens once again.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here today to celebrate the life of our great friend Chuck Besen. I know he impacted all of our lives in so many ways over the years, and it's sad to lose such a great friend, especially Chuck going through the challenges and the struggles that he had over the last 12 years. But I know Chuck was very thankful and appreciative of the time that he had left, especially to raise his son and to be a part of his life and to see the man that he will, soon become. He's very proud of Dylan and young man who's becoming. He's such a great heart and smart, intelligent, and I know Chuck is really proud and really proud of the man Dylan will become. And I know that, again, he's impacted us in so many ways, and he's going to be greatly missed. And I was fortunate enough to be able to spend some time with him before he passed. And I know how important family and friends meant to Chuck. And I feel really blessed and fortunate to have been part of his life, and to be able to call him my friend and my brother. I miss him dearly, as I know you all will. But I know he doesn't want us to be sad. He wants us to celebrate the life that he had, and wants us to know to, don't take life for granted. Life can be gone in a minute, and to live our life to the fullest. And I know Chuck lived his life to the fullest. I was very fortunate to be able to, experience, some great times with Chuck. And I miss him dearly, as I know you all will. Love you, Chuck. Thanks for being such a great friend, buddy.
Things to say about Chuck Besen. Before I met Chuck, I was relatively well known, and he had heard about me, and he was under the impression that I was tall, thin, good looking, some of the exaggerated stories. Then he met me, and, I crushed him. Chuck, as a Chuck, I got a top hat from a cruise we were all on. He had one, and I thought that'll work out great for me. So I got one too. Thanks for the inspiration, Chuck. Because of Chuck, I became a Grateful Dead fan, and many great concerts together, and a lot of fun. One of the things about Chuck is he always said, he was a big movie buff, and he always said he never had an original thought. And one time when we were working together at PTs, he said something, and I go, Chuck, that's an original thought. And he goes, oh my God, it is. And then, of course, the next day we were drinking, and the next day we didn't remember what it was. Chuck was a great guy. He was sports. He was a guy's guy. He was a ladies' man. Girls loved him. And Chuck Besen, you, my friend, were the Superman. God bless you. You will be missed.
Hey guys, how you doing? I really had to sit down and do a video with the heck of you in front of you guys and recompose. One of the things I want to talk to about Chuck was the four things that always, in talking to his friends back that he grew up with, great guys, I heard stories from all of them, and one of the things, in between that and what I've known about it, the four things with Chuck, number one, he's very, very convincing. He can convince you just about anything, and he's quite simple. He can tell you stories. Second one is his attention to detail. He knows things that I wouldn't notice about things, buildings, about houses and stuff. He's really good with that, and definitely cars. He's always good with cars. Third thing, we like to live. We like to live good. I always remember talking about things, and then I used to just go, okay, country club, all right, country club. I grew up in the States, you're a country club guy. That would piss him off, but that and label whoring. We always had to talk about the tag heuer watch and the camouflage underwear or whatever. It's okay, you're a country club guy. And so we get through that. But last but not least was a sense of humor and his wit. Man, that guy was sharp, and he was quick, and he was witty, and I always scratched my head, where the fuck did he come up with that stuff? Those are the four things, they've always come up in every story and everything. I can remember about Chuck was those four things. So, shortly after that, about a year or so later, we moved into dogs, and it was at that point we moved into dogs that we became family. We were family. We were in our 20s then, late 20s. And the world was by the nuts. Everything was going good, making money, and we were making, everything was going good. We also talked about. We became close, so yeah, that's the point where I realized that all the stuff I pulled on my brother, I was going to come back on me. Chuck was my little brother. He was my little brother, and I was going to be the co-event planner, party planner, and the head of the Chuck Besen damage control department. Little brother, that's what I got to do to take care of him. So, the dog years, I'll call it dog years, because we were pretty creative. Had a lot of fun, both managed bars with PTs, and one of the stories I want to bring up is the humor and the wit, and people still ask us about it. I don't talk about ant wars or some of the other crazy stuff, but I will bring this up. Back then, there was probably about, I don't think there was quite 20 bars then, there was a lot. And so we would all go see each other, see the other managers and stuff, and so when we did, managers would always be glad that we walked in there. But it was around Christmas one year, and I don't know if it was Chuck started in one of the places. So somebody had stolen a ornament from one of the other bars, and they brought it back like a trophy, hung it in there. So then it became this battle where people from Dallas would come up to our bars, and we'd all be glad to see them. But at Spring Mountain, I had security guards. I was one of the security guards, and I used to, be around alert, be around Christmas theft, PT, but anyway, so back then, I remember when I was in again, another one of those nights where I wasn't going to make it home. I mean, I was going to make it home early, and he was going to make it home late, which was pretty typical. Every time I get ready to leave, he always was like, Nobody likes a quitter. Nobody likes a quitter. Yeah, he's stuck around for a long time, but remember going home, thinking I'm going home. Good night. And I went home, and a couple hours later, I don't know when, I remember waking up to the voice. It was not uncommon. He would sometimes creep in and try to crank me while I was sleeping and all this stuff. And I just remember waking up and I saw it, it looked like Santa Claus or something. He had like Santa Claus with him. And what he done was he stole the Santa Claus, a 6-foot Santa from PT's. He stopped the restaurant from Dick Puff Road. And he was in there and he brought Santa Claus home. And he was trying to sneak it into my room and plug it in and put it in bed with me. I remember laying in bed going, Besen, I'm going to beat it, I'm going to beat you. Get out of here. I heard giggling. And then got it plugged in, but couldn't get it in bed, or whatever. Anyway, you're such a get the fuck out, bro. Get out of here, beat it, buddy. And it's so funny, it was about then that the dog realized that Santa Claus was missing. And he's, by the way, he had someone watch the bar, and he went down and had to go through the videotapes to try and see who it was and found out it was Chuck. Santa was back there. So he called Chuck and said, damn it, Chuck, I need that back now. And Chuck had been drinking so much that he actually sent Santa Claus back in a taxi cab. The face, there was just a taxi cab driver that kept trying to say, what you mean, take back Santa back? You can see I sent back in the cab. He did very well. And that was part of the convincing and the witty. Just, there was some of that in everything he did. So after living with dog for a while, we kind of went our different ways and ended up back living together later after that. I've also got to know some of his friends, so his really good friends. I mean, these are guys that they're like my friends that I grew up with. And he became part of that family. He became part of the family where he was hanging out with us all the time. And Randy from San Diego and everybody else, and every time they all got together, they started to part of the family. And, so were my friends. But the first one is, I'm going to bring it was Johnny Wickens. Johnny Wickens was one of his buddies. They went to college. They went to all the way through school, played soccer, played stuff. And Johnny remembered going to Cosmo games with Art, Chuck's dad, and how the Cosmos was such a big thing back then, with Pele and all the other stuff was going on. It was a tough ticket, but he had a lot of fun doing that. And then after college, he said after college, we all went to Chuck was in Florida. When I went to Florida, why wouldn't we not go to Florida for spring break when Chuck's there? Because, Chuck had the Panama City Beach by the Nets. And so they were all having crazy parties and stuff down there. And he told me some stories about that, but I'm condensed in this version, so we'll get to them later. But one of the things I was talking to him too is I said, you know what? So tell me something. Who's our guy? Who's our guy? Who's our guy? You get it. You get it. He's just our guy. He's the class president. He did the speeches. Sometimes we do shots before he did the speeches. He was just that guy. He's our guy. And I just pictured then him and his friends as entourage, and Chuck was Vince, but I think they all played a part in it, but they were all very, very, very good friends and very close, and it still speaks to that. I want to go to towards the end there, Chuck. We were doing doctor's appointments and doing stuff like that, and he went in for just a simple aortic valve replacement in, let's see, September of 08, I could be wrong. And it was just a couple hours supposed to be, and I remember being there for all day. We were Fridays at lunch, came back, it was at Desert Springs Hospital, and there was a group of people there, the doctor coming out and saying, I can't keep going, I can't sustain life, and because there was a problem of leakage on one of the sides of his valves, so all we can do is send to Arizona, that's where the top people are. And this sent to Arizona, he got to Arizona and total organ failure, wasn't thinking he was going to make it at all. And they kept him going, they put him on this Jarvik-type heart hooked to air valves that was helping his heart keep him alive. He was on dialysis and everything else. And he coma for a couple weeks, maybe a week, 10 days. And then when he came to, because of his convincing, because of his attention to detail, and the fact that all the doctors were in his room all the time, they just liked him. not gonna make it here in the hospital. And so that's when we performed the surgery, and that's when we got Chuck the last 10 years. It was like, he also said a number of times, you gotta move this on life, you want to raise a son, you want to be around Dylan, and Dylan, you got 10 years on it, buddy, and you know what? You would have done, he loved you, and you would have done anything for your day. It was Dylan. So, we got 10 years good out of it. And then, you know, towards the end there, I was thinking of the doctor's appointments and stuff, and back to the attention details. The doctor was one of the guys we had to wait forever to see, and he went in to talk to him. And I had left the room. I was out for a while, went back, and after the doctor was talking about all the things he was doing, this is some highly rewarded, decorated doctor. When I got in there, he says, "Is there anything else you want to say, Chuck? Any other questions?" And Chuck says, "Yeah, what kind of car do you drive?" That guy, you know, Dr. Shock too. He said, "What are you talking about?" I drove the Porsche Cayenne back and forth. And Chuck said, "Well, that's good because you're highly decorated, you're big awards, you're well dressed, and I might have problems with you working on me if you drove a Prius or a just stuff like that." So when you least expect it, here it comes. So, there's a lot of stories and a lot of things to tell, but I'm going to cut it short from that first speech. I'm getting through without problems so far. And Chuck, I miss you, buddy. Oh, I brought this for support. So I was going to have to say, a little support there, buddy. Bring it on. It's all right. Love you.
Wow, I'm still stuck on Santa and the taxi cab. Amazing. We have a couple of special people that would like to remember Chuck. First his son Dylan, and then Dylan's mom Jen.
Alright, I guess I'm doing this now. No, I'm good. Let's see. My dad is one of the best people I've ever known, and ever will know. Not only was he a great son, father, friend, he was an inspiration. He always took so much care of his stuff and his friends and his family. One day I asked him why, and he told me that one day they were going to be mine. That's why he kept going through all the effort to make sure his stuff was clean and ready for me when the time came. Unfortunately, that time came quite sooner than I had expected. When I first heard that he had passed, my alarm was blaring and my mom came to wake me up. My vision and my mind were a blur, and I thought it was all a dream. It would all get real, though, very real, very fast. I was not very proud of a few things, one of which being that I couldn't always choose expectations. I tried, but I couldn't. I always knew that there was a slight disappointment in his voice whenever he brought up silly things like grades or my progression in sports. But probably the most regretful thing I've ever done was say a silly phrase of last words to him. A sentence which everyone used so casually, and you don't care to rethink it until it's too late. Those words were, "I love you, Dad, see you tomorrow." If I could change my word choice, I could. I would, but I know that if you were here still, you would tell me not to overreact about it. How he loves me, and how he'll always be with us, whether physically or not. He was always sick my whole life, so there were times I thought he would pass. And this time I just thought he was just going to bounce back like he always did. And I will admit, it did catch me a little bit off guard. I know everybody was caught off guard. But it doesn't matter what we left off as much as it does when we remember the good times. I remember ever since I was about 2, seeing him wear his watch, his tag here with a silver outside and a blue face. I never saw him take it off, which is why it's one of my most prized possessions. It almost feels as if I still have him with me right here, smiling. Roger just recently took me out to a dinner for my birthday, Bon Amiga B, which happened to be Dad's last ever meal. We sat on the balcony and saw the interesting and cool cars pass by. Each time a new one passed by, I turned a little bit to my right to the empty chair next to me to look over at him if he were there, eager to tell him about it. And it broke my heart a little when I couldn't do that. What I want to do is make things right, so I'm going to say what I really want to say to him as my last words. Thank you, Dad, for teaching me right and wrong, for helping me out in messed up situations, and always cheering me up when I was irritated. Thank you for understanding me, and always doing what will make me happy and putting me first. I swear on my life that I will not make the mistakes you taught me how to avoid. And I will learn how to drive that Porsche you got if it be the death of me. I will try my best at school and sports and life in general. And lastly, most importantly, I love you. Thank you for giving me almost 13 of the best years of my life and passing your knowledge on to me. Maybe one day I'll get that Aston Martin you always wanted. I love you, Dad. It's okay. You can rest now.
That was excellent. Lorraine, I wore mascara. Okay, I wrote down stuff. I probably won't be able to even look at this and tell you. I want to say first off, I can't begin to thank everybody in this room for what you guys have given to Chuck, Dylan, and I over the past years. There's no way I can pay you back. I try every day with Dylan. He's a wonderful boy. He does great in school, and if you guys knew him, he's the epitome of his dad, even his wit and sarcasm. So for me, it's a constant battle. With Chuck and I, Chuck will never tell you that we were soulmates. We were never a storybook love. We were not the typical love. But when it came down to it, and I look now, full circle 360, I was the right love for Chuck at the time. I was the tough love. And nobody likes a tough love, but sometimes we need one. He had wonderful love from his friends. People gave him so much of the feel good, but very few people were there to tell him to get up off his ass. I was that person. I do that very well, and you can ask Dylan. He'll totally agree. I want to tell you the most important thing that you guys probably don't know, or a couple of things you don't know about Chuck. The most important is that he was a gentleman. He was a man's man, and he was a gentleman. The first time I ever met him, I had just started at Tommy's bar, and he relieved me. And he was very quiet, so I thought maybe I made him angry, because that's how he was. And then the very next day I came into work, and somebody showed up and asked me for my car keys at the bar. And I just kind of looked at him and inquired, of course. And he said, yeah, somebody sent me to go fix that crack in your windshield. And I was like, who? And he said, some guy, his name's Chuck. And he took care of the bill, so give me your keys. That was the very first time I met him. I didn't even know him. I didn't even know him. And that's what he did. I am the jeans and t-shirt, stay at home, to myself, quiet person until I go out to work. He would buy me dresses that he thought would look beautiful on me. And I know you all I know you know Chuck so much, and you probably wonder, what was it with him and I? Because we're day and night. But I do remember for the transplant, you should also know this too. We were good for each other because of this, because we were both stubborn. And our wits and intelligence were pretty dead on. I didn't put up with any shit from him, and he didn't put up with anything from me either. But there was a mutual respect and a very mutual love, which is why Dylan is here. When we were 6 months in the hospital in Arizona, they came and talked to us and said that he probably wouldn't get a transplant, that it's not viable because he'd been there so long in his age. So together we sat and we talked and we formulated. And he rehearsed his words, and then I went and petitioned the hospital and the organ transplant. And together we got it. They said that it would be lucky if he made it a year, maybe 2, and if everything went perfectly, it would be 10 years. And I told them not to worry because he would make it longer. And he did. So we got 12 beautiful years from him. And sometimes we have to do things in our life that others don't understand, but they're actually for the better of somebody else. And so, if you ask me, I will tell you, yeah, I was a bitch. I was. And there were things I said that I know he shook his head at, but he never yelled at me. And he never said anything mean to me. And especially toward the end, he listened to me. And really, that's all I have to say, except for thank you, because Dylan and I are two of the most fortunate people in the world. And I am a very introverted person on my own, but with Chuck, he would bring me out of my shell. So thank you, everybody. And his life is a celebration. It's the greatest celebration of all.
Well, now it's time for that open mic session or sharing session we talked about. It's your chance to come forward and share a story or a memory that you might have of Chuck. As I said, it gives us all a chance to see him through your eyes. And when you do come forward, please tell us your name and how you knew Chuck. I'm going to sit down for a few minutes, and the floor is yours. Roger.
No, that was a tough act to follow right there. Jennifer, good job, guys. I'm up here speaking on behalf of Adam Wolf, who wrote a letter on behalf, from all of his friends back in New Jersey. And yes, Adam, I wish I would have communicated better. You could have put a video out, and then, because I tell you what, first couple times I read this, I didn't think I'd be able to do it. But here we go. This is from Adam, one of his childhood friends. I'm grateful for the opportunity to write a few things in commemoration of our beloved friend Chuck. The folks gathered today from his life in Vegas have had the blessing of his friendship for the last 30 years. There are a lot of people who loved him dearly from his childhood in New Jersey who've had the blessing of his friendship for the first 30 years. And then some of us as lucky as myself who's had the blessing of knowing him for both those periods of time. Chuck was a dear friend to everyone. There'll be a lot of people who'll miss his friendship greatly. This is a testament to the kind of friend he was. He would never hesitate to give you the shirt off his back if you were in need. That's the kind of friend he was. Chuck liked to work hard and play hard. As a kid, he was a dedicated athlete and equally as scholarly. Many of us people on this stream spent countless hours playing basketball, baseball, stickball, hockey, soccer, tennis, and probably plenty of other sports with him. In fact, Chuck was a captain of the basketball team and soccer teams his senior year. He was our class president for the Kinnelon High School class of '81. Those were some of the great events he helped organize for his classmates. the senior dinner, senior trip, prom, and graduation all had Chuck's brand as part of them. Chuck played hard. When Chuck played basketball, he got so sweaty. He played to win. He would take you high post and drain jumpers in your face, or he'd take you low post and slide a baseline lay-in, reverse layup. But no matter how he beat you on the court, he was always the sweatiest kid on the court. If that's his shirt, I was happy to never have him get me off his back. He would be soaked. Chuck worked hard. He was always engaged with his teachers at Kinlan High School, from adventures with Hillary Petterlin to Mr. Sabatino, Super Sabs, he called him, to Senior Ruiz. Chuck was always an overachiever in everything he did. Chuck played hard. He was always ready for a road trip, hitchhiking adventure, or some kind of event that always had the potential to turn into an epic, if not potentially dangerous, expedition. I have memories with Chuck that are some of the best times of my life. I'll always remember him and them. They're forever etched in my mind. I remember one road trip to Nassau Coliseum with a couple of carloads of people to see the Grateful Dead, maybe 82. On our way home, going over the Throg's Neck Bridge in his Volkswagen convertible, I think it was a Carmagia convertible he had. It broke down, and I mean it really broke down. The suspension or axle or something broke. With two carloads of us heading back together and Chuck's VW compromised, I volunteered to stay with him, and we sent the rest of the folks home in the other car, maybe 6 or 8 or more of them. I don't remember who was there, but probably G, Wickens, Viet, Biff, Garcia, and maybe some Niehoffs. I really couldn't tell you now. We got towed to the Bronx to a mechanic in the middle of the night, and the tow truck driver had one arm and told us about a serial killer in the area called the Slasher. Chuck and I were terrified. We spent the night across the street from the mechanic since it was closed in a White Castle in the Bronx. We waited till morning to call Chuck's dad, who was from the Bronx, to come and get us. Art was infuriated with us. I'll never forget that night. Another road trip to see the Grateful Dead to Meriwether Post Pavilion in Maryland, the following year maybe. While the Dead were amazing as usual, the night ended with Chuck and I sitting on the shoulders of the Lincoln Memorial, watching the sun come up, while tourists watched Chuck and I in our tie-dyed shirts and his foldable geographics around his neck grace the memorial. This was pre-9/11 and before social media, and was a thing which explains why we didn't end up in federal custody that night. You could get away with a lot more back then. There are so many events, stealing Danny Severice's brother's car and road tripping into the Great Adventure before anyone had driver's licenses. So many memories I'll always have with Chuck, sitting on Danny's basement discovering the Dead with Europe 72 and Pink Floyd sessions that lasted days. As time went on, Chuck and I finished college in separate universities, separate places. We lost touch to some degree for a few years until phones, emails, text messages became more ubiquitous. I was fortunate enough, starting about 20 years ago, to start having businesses in Vegas, and I was able to reconnect with Chuck on a semi-regular basis and got to meet many of his friends, Roger, Mark, and Chris, and some others. I know he loved you so dearly, and I was so happy that Chuck found a place he called home. Back when he and I connected again, he said to me, Adam, you know, out of all of our high school friends, and I always consider you to be the one I'm most similar and feel the most connected with. I told him I felt the same way, as we had similarities, and I think must have been because we had equally hard childhoods driving, trying to find our ways. Both our families were somewhat complicated, perhaps every family is. I know for me, our friends in Kinlan provided me with a family. I think that provided us to Chuck a similar fashion. And don't get me wrong, Chuck and I never had want for material things, and I don't think either one of us had a foundation that made us navigating the world easy. But Chuck, as everyone knows, was an expert life navigator. He was a craftsman of living and life, and I'm happy he found his foundation in his Las Vegas home with all of you. My father died when I was a kid. I was a little older than Dylan is now. The one thing I've always longed for in my life was to hear stories about my father, what he was like, who he was like, what he loved. But I didn't really have that much knowledge of who people were and people that knew him back then. So information for me was always scant. I know that Dylan will have great friends in Chuck's Las Vegas group of friends that he can always talk to. But I always want you to know, Dylan, the Kinlan group will always be there for you if you ever want to talk about your dad. He was a great friend to all of us, and he will be missed. May our dear friend Chuck Besen rest in peace, and may his spirit find us in our dreams and waking memories. I know he will live on in my soul until I join him in the afterlife one day. Adam, should have sent a video. I would have played it, then we didn't have it. Thank you, guys.
Hey guys, I'm sure you all feel the same way I do. That I feel blessed. I'm sure all you feel blessed just to have Chuck touch us. Each and every time he talked to one of us or individually, he made us feel like the most important person. Chuck and I had several conversations, and a lot of time is over the phone. He didn't always call at the best time, but I always tried to make time to make sure I answered the phone. And one thing that always impressed me about him, it was his enthusiasm about cars. He would ask about the newest model coming out, and 90% of the time, he knew more about it than I did, which isn't abnormal. And the other times, he would call and he'd ask about values of a car that he's interested in buying or looking into. And he'd call, I don't know, for maybe confirmation, but he knew the value quicker than I did. He would tell me what it was, and he was spot on. The other thing that impressed me and I felt is every time that Dylan was his inspiration. And how proud he was of Dylan. They'd be driving down the road, and we had this conversation several times. They'd be driving down the road for whatever, to go wherever, and Dylan would point out cars, the make, the model, the year, quicker than he could even say a word. He was so impressed with your intelligence and your wit, and he was so proud of you. You were the apple of his eye, and you were his driving force. And Dylan, just like Uncle Dean said, you look around this room, you got a lot of uncles, and you have to want for nothing, because each and every one of us are a phone call away and a short drive away, and we'll always be here for you. He was proud of you. I think we're all proud of you. I promise you that. Because you're a hell of a young man. And you have the whole world ahead of you. And you made him smile. You made him happy. You made him drive. You know, one thing that Roger said, that Chuck, I'm sure he said this to many of us, no one likes a quitter. No one likes a quitter. Well, he didn't quit. He's carrying on. And he wouldn't want any of us to quit. So let's keep on keeping on, and let's celebrate his life. Love you, Chuck.
Jennifer, thank you so much for having the patience to stick in there with Chuck and create this wonderful young human being, this wonderful young man. You were absolutely his greatest achievement. I was blessed to live with him a couple of times after you were born and watch you grow and watch all of the fun things that you guys did together. Just watch you sit on the couch and foot fight. He was so proud of you. And we are so grateful, not only that you were born because you're you, but he survived because he wanted to be there for you. He wanted to watch you graduate. He was just, he loved you so much. And he kept on and he kept on keeping on. And it's because of you. And because of you. I just want to tell you how much I love you both. And I'm so blessed to have you in my life. And how all blessed we are to have had Chuck in our lives. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Rogers. Live in Chicago with my wife, Jill. I moved here to Las Vegas 24 years ago, and just by luck of the draw, I got an apartment across the street from Flamingo PTs. And Tommy and Chuck were managing that place, and I was there pretty much every night for the first couple of years I was there, and you know, Roger and Dog and Foxy and everybody and Tim Thompson and everybody, just, it really wasn't an open enrollment for some kid coming out of, you know, coming into town, but they took me in, and Chuck was the one that really, you know, put a stamp of approval on me to be family with everybody, and that meant so much to me. And when Jill came into my life, he came into her life even more so than me, probably in a lot of ways. But there was just something about this man. I mean, whatever it is, this man had it. And Dylan, you have it too. You have his blood through your veins. And we're all so proud of you, just like he was. Just like everybody else is saying, I will do anything for you. You ever need anything, I'll be there. I'm a phone call away. But we're all so proud of you and the man you're becoming. And we are so blessed, Jen, that you brought this young man into our life with Chuck, and we're going to be able to see Chuck live on through him. And that's a blessing for all of us. I can't tell you how great that makes me feel. My last conversations with him, he was on the shitter at his house, his Roger's house, but we were back there for quite some time. And I was so upset about the way things were going, and I just wanted to be here for him. And he said, don't be one of those guys. You know, he sincerely said that to me, and he meant it. I was sitting on the tub watching him take a shit for an hour or so, excuse my language, but and he just made me feel at peace. I walked out of that bathroom and I felt alive. It really made me feel alive. I hate to say, I never thought that I would say that watching another man shit, but it made me feel alive. But, you know, and just the blessing that he was to me, you're going to be like that for all of us, Dylan. And I love that. And I'll do anything for you, like I said. And he brought all of you into my life as well, so at some point, some way. So I also feel blessed to have all of you in my life through him. So thank you all so much.
I wasn't going to do this, so I wasn't prepared to say anything. But I can say this is the first time ever I'm glad to be wearing a mask, because at least I feel like I can hide a little bit. So, I'm Leora. I'm Chuck's cousin from Florida. I know many of you know the stories about the family. Wasn't particularly close, unfortunately. I grew up loving Chuck. He was a couple years older than me, but he was always the all-American, good-looking jock. And for a cousin to say that you know, that's kind of strange, but he was. And the past few years, Chuck and I reconnected. I came and met him and his mother, Sylvia, my Aunt Diddy, for lunch. And we started talking, and he reached out to me a couple times for some help with a couple things that you probably know about, but I don't even want to go there. So I was devastated when I got the news. I can say, Dylan, every time I talked to him, every single time, he mentioned you. and he was very proud of you. And he's with you. So, coming here, I was a little bit nervous. I was a lot nervous. Thinking, how many people from New York are going to be able to make it? Am I going to be the only one? But I am so glad I came, because there is more family in this room and in these testimonies than I could have ever hoped for. So thank you all for everything you have done for Chuck. And my biggest regret is that we waited so long to reconnect. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I have to tell you, I do a lot of funerals around the valley in many different mortuaries. We have 8 of them here. And I'm usually in a chapel at least once or twice a day, and this is going to be a funeral that I will not forget. I've heard about Santas in taxis. I've heard about bathroom conversations. But the essence of all of your stories is that Chuck was a wonderful guy. And I'm thinking right now about the family and the loss they've suffered, and I'm reminded of a tombstone that I saw in a little country church graveyard. It was in Ireland. It was an old, worn-out headstone from the last century. But its words are as relevant today, I think, as the day they were carved by hand into that granite. And they said this: "Death leaves a heartache that no one can heal, but love leaves a memory that no one can steal." I urge you today as we close to keep those memories alive of Chuck, and he'll always be with you right here in your heart. Make one of your first priorities that of thinking about Chuck often. Make that call to his son and his friends and his family and say, "I was thinking about him today, and I just wanted you to know." What a difference you can make in the lives of someone who has suffered a loss. And as you begin to share those stories and memories of Chuck, you too begin the healing process from suffering the loss of your friend or your loved one, because you are now the ambassadors of his legacy. May you be touched by his determination, his enthusiastic spirit, and his love of life for today, tomorrow, and always. Roger has a few final words, and then we'll do our closing prayer. Roger?
Yeah, just a couple things I want to say was first, we talked about how are we going to commemorate? How are we going to commemorate? Where are we going to get a plaque or do this, and, whatever, so that the ashes will be spread later. But then I remembered I bought the Raider tickets, and they sent me a notice about, do you want to buy a brick? And I did. I bought a brick, and I was thinking a couple of us put season tickets, and I put Chuck's name down there. So there is a memorial for him here. If you ever get to the Raider Stadium somewhere, I don't even know where, but there'll be a brick with his name on it, and you guys can pay tribute to him there somehow. So, and the last thing I wanted to say is that was his line to me, but that was his line to a lot. Nobody likes a quitter, and it takes me back to something I didn't get in the other video. There was a time when he was at Desert Springs Hospital, and they couldn't get him back alive, and they made everybody go up there, and they pretty much were saying their last rites to him while they're waiting. The doctor said, go, you can say your last kind of goodbyes while we're waiting for the plane to flight for life into Arizona. And that's when everybody was up there saying, God bless you, Chuck, keep fighting. And he was pretty much in a coma then, and that's when I got my shot back at him. I went up and said, nobody likes a quitter, Besen. And you know what? We joked about that later, but he wasn't a quitter, man. He kept fighting, and it's inspiration for all of us, including myself. But anyways, thanks for everything. And the last thing I would say is I think I'm going to give him the Las Vegas celebrity send-off. I think I'm going to go down Las Vegas Boulevard and turn on my flashers. And, I think they did that for Frank and Sammy. So we'll go Blue Martini that way. If you guys want to do it, you're welcome. But I'll be the guy with my flashers on, going 35 miles an hour down Las Vegas Boulevard. Thank you.
Please bow your heads for our closing prayer. Heavenly Father, you are our Creator. You are the author of life. If this event has taught us one thing, Lord, it's that life is a precious gift. We've come together today here at Palm Mortuary to commemorate and honor a life that is precious to us. And as we mourn Chuck's life that is no longer with us, we're aching from the void that has been created in our heart. We ask that you allow us to carry the memory of Chuck in our hearts forever. We lift up our sadness and our grief to you, Lord, and we ask that you would comfort us in our pain and bring us an abundance of your gentle healing mercies. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Thank you so much for being here today as we shared stories and memories of this wonderful guy. We'll ask our funeral director to come forward now and give us directions for our dismissal. Dan?
First off, I'd like to thank John for his presence and his kind and thoughtful words of comfort and hope here today. And I would like to thank all of you for your support as well. It's greatly appreciated. I encourage all of you to keep Chuck and his family in your thoughts and in your hearts in the days to come. At this time, this concludes our services. May peace be with you.
Thanks, Dan.